Who was Napoleon III? And why should you care? Frankly, you shouldn't care. You could live a very happy life and not know who Napoleon III is. But, unless, of course, you're taking the AP exam Friday, May 8th, in which case you should probably listen. Also, European nation building. What is it? Which countries did it? Tune in to find out. That pie looks very good. So, what was the biggest factor in Louis Napoleon's election in France?
Because he shared the same name as Napoleon Bonaparte.
So why else was Louis Napoleon elected?
I don't know.
So why else was Louis Napoleon elected to rule France?
I don't care.
He doesn't care. So interviewing on the street didn't work. Why was Napoleon elected to the France?
The middle class and the peasants wanted a strong ruler. Also, he had a positive program written in 2 pamphlets called The Napoleonic Ideas and The Elimination of Poverty.
Of course, he did. So how is Louis Napoleon as a leader? The silent treatment. So your friend over there wouldn't tell me the answer. So why was Napoleon III a good leader? Oh, that's of course, because he believed that the government should represent the people. That makes sense. Thank you. What's this? There's more? And he was a strong leader? Whole package. Found this guy with his Jamba Juice. So why was Louis Napoleon caught conspiring with army officers?
Because the National Assembly didn't let him run for a second term.
That's correct.
Once Louis Napoleon gained power through a coup d'etat, he changed his name to Napoleon III, and his greatest success soon became the economy. He hired George Haussmann to rebuild Paris, who did so by creating new boulevards, new parks, and new aqueducts. Napoleon also regulated pawn shops, gave rights to unions and strikes, and ultimately restricted the power of the National Assembly. He wanted to reorganize Europe, but was criticized by liberals, and thus he liberalized his empire, giving the Assembly more power. In 1870, he granted a new constitution, combining a parliamentary regime with a hereditary emperor as chief of state.
So we're here on scene in Italy, and what better place to discuss Italian unification, right?
What's Italy?
So was Italy ever unified before 1850?
No.
In this section about Italy, you should know the key things, which include the 3 ideas on how to unify Italy, the power of Sardinia-Piedmont, Cavour and his alliance with Napoleon III to kick Austria out and gain northern Italy, why Napoleon left and later rejoined his alliance with Cavour, Garibaldi and the kingdoms he liberated, his group of 1,000 red shirts, his planned attack on Rome and Cavour's interception, and ultimately how the state of Italy was by the late 1800s. In this section about Germany, the key things to know are how the government was before Bismarck was hired, what the Zollverein was and why it created tension between the German states and Austria, the new government and Bismarck, Bismarck's rejection of parliamentary power, the war against the Danish, the Austro-Prussian War, and what Austria agreed to when they lost, the unification of northern Germany, how the government worked in this new northern German confederation, why the parliament no longer opposed Bismarck, and lastly, the Franco-Prussian War and how Prussia won and united all of Germany.
Here with Dylan Lasher. So, how was the United States divided by slavery?
The Northerners focused on family farms and the factories with few slaves, while Southerners were focused on plantations with many slaves.
So Daniel, what was the king of the South?
Cotton. They produced 5 million bales a year by 1850.
Exactly. But what did Mexico see in 1848 that caused even more tension in the U.S.? Texas, Trebek. People debated over whether or not slavery should be used in the new territory. What happened to the Union in 1860?
Well, Ryan Clark, in the 1860s, it split up into 11 different states. And, yeah. And then and then that kind of started the Civil War. Yeah.
Swear, who should have won the Civil War?
The South.
Who won the Civil War?
The Union won, Ryan. The South did not have a large population, industry, or transportation in the northern land.
What was the Homestead Act of 1862, and what was the 13th Amendment?
The Homestead Act gave western land to settlers, and the 13th Amendment ended slavery.
Were the blacks free and equal by this time?
No, the South regained control of state government, so many former slaves were again forced to work.
That's racist.
You should know these key topics about the modernization of Russia. Russia's status in the mid-1800s and their serfdom problem, their embarrassing defeat during the Crimean War, Tsar Alexander II and his attempts to reform serfdom, courts, local government, and many other areas, improving industrialization in Russia, the new Tsar Alexander III and economy of Russia in the 1880s, Sergei Witt and his help to create railroads and factories, the causes of the revolution of 1905, such as the attack from Japan and rising nationalism, the events of the revolution, including the Bloody Sunday Massacre and the October Manifesto, the Duma system and its ineffectiveness, revised electoral laws which allowed landowners to take a majority in the Duma, Chief Minister Stolypin and his proposals to reform peasant life, and ultimately the condition of Russia by the early 1900s.